Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Matcha Jobs Talks, our fourth installment of the 8-part series that we have thoughtfully curated for all of you. And my name is Jean. Today, I'm going to be your host, and I'm going to be talking to our special guest today. But before we start, a few house rules. And today's topic is, let me see, okay. Give me a moment. Today's topic, we're gonna touch on Japanese language and culture training for Filipino tech professionals in Japan. So essentially, is it important? Why does it matter to even think about studying the language and the culture, whether it is required by the company that's hiring you, the future engineers working in Japan, or not, because there are a lot of companies here in Japan that don't really require the language, but there are also a lot of popular companies that require that. So today you will be meeting a good friend, Shanedy Fernandez, who is the HR Help Desk Manager at Coca-Cola Far East Limited. So a few house norms for those joining us live. The session is recorded, as you already know. Just mute when you're not speaking. And when it is your turn to speak, just speak up so we can clearly hear you. And if you would like to turn on your video, that would be awesome. We'd like to make this an interactive conversation and maybe give you the time later to ask your live question to Shane. And then anytime that questions or comments come up, feel free to chat inside the chat box, and then we'll make time for it later to comment back and answer the question. And most of all, enjoy the conversation as if we're all in a cafe, just having a cup of tea or coffee and getting to know Shane. At the end of this, before we hang up, we'd like to take a community photo. So I hope you all can join. And for those who are not familiar, especially for those who are watching this from the recording, Matcha Jobs is your newest job networking platform that's based in Japan. And our aim is to bridge Filipino tech professionals, so software engineers, web developers, AI engineers, bridge managers, UX designers, data scientists, and everyone who have had the experience of building a tech product. So more than the engineers, there are other like product leaders and other roles that we are aiming to bring into Japan, introduce you to companies here who are either tech companies or companies going through a digital transformation. We're new, we're on soft launch, so the website and the platform is always evolving. And yeah, we are composed of a very lean team in Japan and in the Philippines. We are deeply rooted in our connection to both countries and our just heartfelt intention to really bridge the gap, the workforce gap that is happening in Japan in tech industries, and the flourishing talent of tech talents, tech professionals in the Philippines. We want to connect you. We want to introduce you to each other. So for those who don't know me, I'm Jean. I've been in tech for a long time, including IBM and Avid. I've been developing leaders across many countries. I've been a digital nomad, so I've known, how it goes to work remotely in a distributed team across the world. I've worked in Silicon Valley companies, built companies also, worked in AI, and now I'm building my own AI company, plus helping co-found a Matcha Jobs. And today's special guest is Shane. She is the current HR Help Desk Manager for Coca-Cola Far East Limited for a long time. She has evolved in her role for the last last 7 years or so in Coca-Cola. Before that, she and I actually met at IBM in Makati, where she served as operations manager. And before that, she also held many other different roles. She was also Japan desk officer and mobility consultant at Hitachi Global Storage Technologies in the Philippines. And she's also done lecturing work for UP Diliman College of Linguistics and the Japan Foundation Manila. She spent a good amount of time as an exchange student in Osaka University College of Economics, if I'm not mistaken. And she has a master's. She holds a master's in Asian Studies major in Japan. She holds an N2 in Japanese language proficiency test, which is some of the highest, few of the highest levels in the language proficiency test. And she's bagged awards for several of her papers from the Asian Center and UP Diliman. And I'm so excited to introduce her today. Shane, welcome to Matcha Jobs. We're so glad that you are here and you are gracing us with your time and energy and expertise.
Thank you, Jean. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so honored that you invited me for this session.
Yay, super glad. I know it's tough to get you to, just move your things around, your schedule. You have so many things going on, but I'm so glad we got reconnected. We always seem to get reconnected, but we never got to really sit down and talk about things. So I'm so happy. I'm probably the most excited person in the room right now because I will be learning more about your experience in Japan companies and so many other things. So let's get started. So why don't you give us a quick overview of your professional career? So I kind of gave an overview, but I would love for you to, share that. How did your career start, especially within the Japan culture, the land of Japan?
So basically, actually, right after I came back from Japan, I landed a job. It's in Hitachi in Laguna. So it's a manufacturing company for hard disk. So that was my first job. I was handling all the expats. So we call them expats or international assignees. So all of those the bosses, I handle their mobility needs. For example, if they need some visa, they need to talk with a provider like Sendent Mobility. So those are relocation providers, getting their houses, setting them up, they're contacting their school for their kids and family. So mostly not just the personal needs, but also being in between, like as called, it's like a mobility desk. So anything that they need, even though they have to go to hospital, for example, and they don't know how to speak the language, I have to be in between. Or if they have to contract a maid, it's interesting because I have to talk to the maids and hire them, and look for anything that could help for our Japanese expats during that time. And aside from that, of course I do the HR work. So I'm reporting to an HR director, so which is also a Japanese, and I help them with their events in the company, help them with with the communications. If there's any announcement or changes in their travel and expenses or anything regarding to their work that they don't understand. So I come in between to do some interpretation work. So that's what my first job. And then I went to IBM. So majority of my life actually revolved in IBM and Coca-Cola. So I did just like a help desk job, like taking in calls for Japanese associates for Procter and Gamble. So we have clients in IBM. It's outsourced site, so we have different clients. So we have P&G, Lenovo, Pfizer, A1. So I started handling calls in Japanese, emails in Japanese. So that's where I started to brush up my Japanese even more and be more familiar with human resources, which is payroll, benefits, all those policies. So, and then after that, I became a manager then, and also changed my company to Coca-Cola. And doing the same thing. I was still part of HR. So basically, it's not that difficult. It's um, my life revolved around Japanese kind of job. At the same time, I was trying to move away from it, but now I was trying to crave for something else. So that's why I started going back to teaching. So I'm teaching now at De La Salle, as mentioned, as a part-time job. And that's where I teach Japanese contemporary issues. And that's where I discuss so many things about, Japanese culture, the
Yeah.
do's and don'ts, things like that. So I think in that sense, I could share more about the things that we discuss in the class when it comes to work setting or work culture for the Japanese.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That is so amazing. It's hard to to label the job that you've done actually, because you're like all over and it's everything is so essential. And wow, I'm super impressed. I mean, I've always been impressed by you, but even more so now. How did you, before we get into the whole, how does it feel, or how do you work in, within a Japanese company? But how did you manage, I guess, compartmentalizing all of those many different facets of the work? Because you were doing HR, and then you were also taking care of a lot of personal things for them. And I'm sure within both responsibilities, there were subtasks and sub responsibilities. How was that? It feels like you were working 24/7.
I think it's more of managing your time, but I think that was crazy because I was still single that time. So I think I was able to manage working even on a Saturday, because you have to do those kind of job on a Saturday, on a Sunday. So you're like on call every time they need you. So but after that, I think it was very enriching in the sense that uh, I was able to apply the Japanese skills, and from there I learned a lot. So that was my foundation of working in a Japanese setting. So I was able to learn how to manage, how to answer the calls, how to send an email, and they're very very actually they're very very kind to me because they know I just graduated, I just came back from Japan, and they know my Japanese was not so perfect because I haven't really learned the Japanese business way of writing. So whenever I send an email, it's so funny because they will return it to me with a correction.
That's
so
wonderful.
so that's how I learned, because I copied the way they reply to me, like, and
Wow.
then they try to correct me. So there's a letter, the color will change because it's Akaji, because they will show me that it's you should use this instead of that when it comes to you know in a business letter or business email.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I have questions about the whole, emailing thing and corresponding with them in Japanese. And I think you're so humble to say that, you're, at that time you were not yet you know, fluent is, I think, is what you said. I feel like a lot of Filipino Japanese speakers say that. Even though, for me, for a non-Japanese speaker, I admire Japanese speakers, or people who have studied that, who have experienced, who correspond that way. But I just think it's a very humble stance. But before going in there, the Japanese exchange student, how was that experience? How did you get into that? And 1 year, right? How was that for you?
I would say I think it's really luck because I almost gave up when I was trying. In UP you have a lot of competition. So I think I applied the first time, but that was 9/11, so I was still in shock. So I think my interview didn't go well. And then the second time, I think I thought I was the one they will choose, but the person next after me was better. So
Oh,
they didn't choose me. And the third time I wasn't applying anymore. So I was accompanying my friend. I'm not sure if Joseph knows her, but we were together. She's the one applying, and the person who interviewed me for the second dean, he remembered me and he said, "You were actually our choice. And then it's just that we only needed one." And then he said, "Do you want this time to go to Japan?" And then I said yes, and then everything just fell into place. And I think the best thing that happened is that I went to a school that no one speaks English that much. So it was a good experience because I was forced to speak in Japanese.
Oh my
and
goodness.
and everybody else like telling me that you're here for Japanese, so don't speak in English. So I think it was a struggle on the first 3 months because everything is in Japanese, right? And even my class, they're all in Japanese. I didn't have any English subject. So I studied Japanese history, Japanese psychology in Japanese, and my classmates were Japanese too. So it's not the regular you learn just the Japanese language. You also learn the subject of the Japanese, similar as a college student. So I think that was a good immersion for me. And that's the reason why I think my Japanese level went up. It's because I immersed myself in, in really everything like it's Japanese. So yeah,
Wow.
and I think that's a good difference because I know some of my friends go to a school that's has a lot of uh, s- Japanese students who speaks English. So
Okay.
when they come, go back to the Philippines, the level of Japanese didn't go up that much because
Mm.
they weren't immersed or exposed too much. So I felt like it was a good blessing. It was for the perfect timing for me to be in that school, to be in that timing. And
Yeah.
also the experience itself was really amazing.
Wow. I can imagine, and I am saying I can because my first 3 months also here wasn't easy. Not just thinking about the language part. If it wasn't for my husband, I would not have survived. And if I wasn't part of an English speaking community, I don't imagine. I cannot imagine how I would have survived. So how did you feel? What were your thoughts? 3 months is a long time. 3 months of not able to express and even understand what the things around you are saying, right? How
I
did you
think
push on?
I think it's more of reminding myself of this is my dream. I really wanted, I've prayed for it. So I really wanted to learn the language because I know that's my only chance of really proving myself that I can really speak the language, and my dream to really be fluent because I'm a Japanese major. It's unexpected that I'll be fluent, but it's a failure if I don't, right? So so I really forced myself. The things that I did, I always have during that time we still have the density show. It's a dictionary like this. So everywhere I go, it's like, okay, what's the new word that I learned? Or I have a notebook that I list down every new word that I learned, and everything that I see is I try to remember the kanji for those. So I think it was a good practice, and all the new phrases that I hear, like for example, my friend will say something like a sentence pattern, like, oh, that's a good sentence pattern. Next time I would use the sentence pattern and try myself to, to use it so that, when there's an opportunity, I can try that, that sentence or, that phrase. So I think the best thing to learn is really copy. It's copying
Yeah.
because when you copy, it's more natural, and
True.
it's proven that it's a correct Japanese because somebody else is saying the
Yes.
same thing, right? So I think that's how I progress. I am good at copying, I would say, copying the way they say it, and trying to my best to express myself because I'm very talkative. So imagine if I'm I'm not able to express myself. It's really
It's hard.
it's hard, right? Not being able to share something. So, and my friend told me, because I have Japanese friends, I told him, as long as you are, they call it, Tsujiro nara
Mhm.
daijobu. So as long as we can understand you, you can express
Mm.
yourself, and we can understand each other, that's fine. Don't mind the grammar for the meantime. Grammar can, can come after.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's so
as
true.
long as you express yourself, and it's like sometimes you're doing charade, right? As long as
Yeah.
we can understand you, that's what I think it's important, right? For you to be able to survive.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I have a lot more questions because of what you just shared. One hour is not enough. Okay, I will try to to take away what is most relevant to the audience. Okay, so um leading on to the working. So you did kind of both the remote working where you were supporting from the Philippines, talking to tech companies, Lenovo, and all of those companies in Japan, and you actually also work in person with Japanese people. And then the third really is all the grammar and stuff. Because before moving here, I studied and I was so worried about the grammar. And it turns out when you get here, you're like, yeah, you don't need to worry about that. It's a whole different world when you're actually in Japan. And then it's also different when you're out in the market, buying versus in the workplace, right? So first, working remotely, supporting tech people from the Philippines. And I think that this is very valuable to our audience because one of the ways that we want to help Filipinos is to help them get remote work, remote jobs from companies here. If they prefer that kind of setting, they can stay in the Philippines. So how was it? What kind of did you need to do a lot of business correspondence kind of Japanese, or was it the more casual conversational Japanese? And what were the Japanese tech people like?
Because I work, maybe it's because it's a global company. So when it's a global company, there's no like senpai kohai or the hierarchy. So they feel like you're just the same. Just you can just call each other the first name. So it's really like that depending on the culture of the company that you're working for. So for example, if it's in the case of the more global company, you just use san instead of sama. But for the more conservative company, we use sama. So there's different, you would know the language of the customers or the employees depending on the way they interact. So you also adjust based on that. So you adjust, the level of politeness, the level of, correspondence that you will have to do depending on, the work culture of that company. So I think it varies depending, on what is their company culture.
Yeah. Could you quickly explain what you meant by the sun and the sama? How do you use it for the audience who don't
Oh,
understand?
sorry.
Yeah.
So it's for the name, right? So when you, for example, Desena is the last name, right? And then you put the Sama as, it's like a Mr. or Miss, right? So you put the Sama on the last name. So Desena Sama is more polite, and then Desena San is also polite, but it's Sama is more polite. It's like you're very high,
Higher
so
level, yeah.
higher level.
Like
So
you're a
that's
samurai. Or
yeah,
was it okay?
yeah. So I think the level of respect or the hierarchy could be felt with the language that we use. So depending on, we have like Keigo also in the work setting. So use Keigo, of course, when you're working, and when you're outside, like if you're not working, you can actually use casual words with your friends, but not with your boss or with your clients. So they will find it really rude if you use those words, and that will also be like the measure of professionalism when it comes to email correspondence. I bet Joseph would know that.
You know, a lot of the Joseph, feel free to to comment if you want. It feels weird to call him Joseph. Yeah, if you're comfortable to share and chime in. Yeah. So you mentioned Keigo. Is that clean as you go, or did you have a different meaning for that?
Keigo is the way of, it's like a form, it's a polite form of Japanese. So
Mm.
instead of des or mass form, it's hard to explain, but
Mm.
you change the way you end your sentences, like itashimasu, onegaishimasu, like that. So it becomes keigo that way if you
Got it.
change it instead of just using a mass or des kind of format.
How do you spell that? Keigo.
Keigo, yes.
Okay, I just typed it in the chat
Yes.
in case people wanna research on that. But
Mm.
it is very interesting because I studied 2 years before coming here, and the moment I got here, I'm like, what? What are they saying? And how come it's different when we're eating at a certain restaurant? They will say Kamala Sama, or Kamala is our daughter. And sometimes they would say nothing. And so Joseph, my husband, will have a hard time kind of explaining because it's hard to explain. And now I get it. Because right now I'm studying through an Instagram person. And he clearly understands, he clearly explains the differences. And so after having been here for about 8 months now, I start to see the difference. But how was it for you, before coming here? Because in your case, kasi you've always loved Japan. That was your goal, that was your dream to work in
Mm.
Japan, right? So when you finally got that approval or visa, and you knew that you were actually going to study in Japan, how did you
Mm.
feel? Because it's a different case for different people.
Yeah, it's like the best day of my life, really.
Oh.
It was really like memorable. I remember I was looking down, from the airplane and seeing the difference of Philippines and Japan, right? It's like you would really realize it's totally different. It's really different from the place that you used to, to live, right? So I think for me it was an amazing experience because I was excited to really experience everything that I just watch on dramas or movies, right? So I think it was really very memorable. I would say I even told you, even before I left Japan, I was crying because I didn't want to
Yeah.
leave Japan. So for me, it's really 1 year that is full of excitement, but at the same time, there were also, ups and downs, right? When you miss your family, and Christmas is totally different. Christmas, you have work on Christmas. It's not a holiday. Imagine you have classes on Christmas. So, and no one's decorating their houses. No one's celebrating. So I cook. I cook pancit from what I remember, and
Oh.
macaroni. And I gave it to my classmates because I want to celebrate. But no one else could, feel what I feel because there's no other Filipinos. And I remember crying when I heard the Joy to the World, I think.
Oh.
Because I was alone as a Filipino. But if you, maybe it's a different scenario for others who will be living with fellow Filipinos, right? But
Yeah.
for me, it was my first time being so away for my family, and that's why Christmas I cried. It's a different
Wow.
kind of Christmas for Japan.
Yeah, yeah, it truly is, and it truly is a different case for people. We have a different lifestyle, our family, and we've spoken to a few other people here in Matcha Jobs talks where it's a, you are like so ecstatic. You're like here, so excited. We've heard stories about, just people being afraid and just not knowing what to expect. So, okay, we're gonna jump back to the whole work environment again. So from supporting remotely those tech people, which sounds to me like a more open, diverse, and international mindset. That's why first name basis, casual conversation. And I'm guessing there's some English there. They speak a little bit of English. Is that correct?
Yeah, for more, if they speak in English, we reply in English too, but they speak in
Yeah.
Japanese. So that's, I think, the polite way.
Okay.
You don't, if they send you an English email, of course you reply in English. But if they send you an email in Japanese, of course you reply in Japanese. So don't reply in English because it's rude. So
Got
I
it.
think that's the rule for that.
Mm.
Depending on the way they interacted with you first, that's the way you will respond as well.
Got it, got it. And a quick note, Joseph's explained clearly, Keigo is a super polite sentence pattern. So for those
Yes.
who wanna research more on that, because the Japanese culture and language is such a it's a different universe. It's like it totally is brand new. It's different from, I guess learning English. Again, it depends on the situation, but totally different, and it's a magical thing to learn. But okay, so moving on to your in-person supporting Japanese expats and Japanese professionals, how is it different from your help desk supporting remotely stint?
I think it's different in a sense that it's kind of personal, and you can talk to them, and not just an email, right? You can talk
Mm,
to them personally, and what they need, you can understand it better because they can explain it to you better. So I think that was a totally different experience. At the same time, you would notice the traditional culture as well. So those culture like for example, you have to bow down, like so I remember and also I like in a Japanese company, there's always an exercise in the morning.
oh, really?
Yeah, so you will do the Japanese exercise in the morning. What else? And you also have this like a huddle in the morning with your bosses. So it's like you're after the exercise, you'll have the quick meeting in the morning just to set up, your team, knowing what is the agenda for the day, what is your focus. So we do that also for a Japanese company. I think it's a practice for a Japanese company. It's a morning meeting every day. And what else? I think the the nomikai after, I really didn't get the chance to do that because it's really for the bosses. But I arranged those setting, I arranged those kind of nomikai, and it's a really different. Once they're out of the uh, company, it's you can get to know them better because they're more talkative. They can talk about personal things and all. So that's the way you can get closer to your colleagues or to your bosses when you're out of the company. But when it's inside the company, it's work, 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 work. I think it's really different with the Filipino kind of setting because you can, insert like, small talk, chit chats and all that. Yeah.
True. Nomikai always comes up in our conversations here at Matcha Jobs. So could you, for those who didn't watch all the previous talks, could you quickly share an overview of what Nomikai is and how it impacts the relationship within the team?
So Nomikai is like a team. It's like a team gathering after work. So normally you go to karaoke, you eat outside together, and then of course nomi means drink, so it's drinking. So either you go to izakaya or to a karaoke after. So that's where you can bond and you can talk anything about you know the family matters or anything that they like. So I think that increase the bond of the team because you can get to know each other because they're already not too shy to share things because they already drink. And I think it's a stress reliever for them because it's the way for them to release the the stress coming from the work, and they don't have to think of work because it's nomikai already.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it really fun. I'm a very social person, but based on my observation, it really is a great opportunity to get to know your workmates outside of the work, especially because in Japan, no, Shane, it's they when they work, they're really deeply focused on the work. It's almost like a non-negotiable. We're not gonna socialize, at least for certain companies and teams. But I feel blessed to just be working with people who are cool and open, and they're still very deeply focused on their work, but it's not like some of the traditional ones where when you're really working, you just work and then you really just socialize with it during lunch break if you eat together or during nomikai. So thank you for sharing that. Um, why did you want Japan to begin with? So taking you back to the very beginning.
Uh, it's a fun story. I actually gave up. I used to study Spanish,
Mm.
and then I was trying to shift to FLCD, Family Life and Child Development. So that's a course for preschool teacher. And then I failed my Chem 16. So I was confused already what to do with my life. And then suddenly, it was a blessing because I was taking my communication streets. It's like a speech com class. And then I had this classmate, Japanese classmate, and we were sitting beside each other. And that's where I got so much interested because we were talking about anything about Japan and her experience in the Philippines. And we were at the beach house that time, the beach house barbecue, right? And then there was just a spark. It's like a bulb. It's like a bulb that, spark in me that what if I understand her better? What if I speak Japanese?
Oh.
So because of that, I was thinking maybe it's a good thing if I know the language. Maybe she can share more, I can share more, and it will be so much fun. Because now that I don't understand, I were speaking in English, we cannot say so much, but it's still fun. But I was thinking maybe it will even be more fun.
Mm.
So that's I started to study Japanese, and I have
Wow.
classmates also who's a fan of anime. So, but I wasn't a fan of anime, but I was curious about them, really so fascinated about it.
Mm.
So that's how I started. It's really more of interest of people because I'm really a talker. So I got so interested in Japanese people. And from then on, it's like everything is Japan.
Yeah.
Everything I want to eat Japanese food. I want to get to learn about the culture of the places. So if you know me back then, it's like I surround myself with everything Japanese. I was a member of UP Tomokai also.
Hmm.
So it's if you're part of that group, it's like everything Japanese too, right? So we did a
Wow.
lot of Japanese stuff.
Yeah. So how did you, I love it. I love that you mentioned how you surrounded yourself with the very things that you wanted to achieve. You wanted to live in Japan while in the Philippines. You set the stage already for you. Even though, you're a very positive, very enthusiastic person, but through that journey there were difficulties for sure. It wasn't easy, just like what you shared. You didn't get into the program right away. You had to try a third time before you got into the exchange
Yeah.
program. So, and it's gonna be similar to Matcha Jobs. Not the first application, the first interviews will probably not be, like maybe a lot of them will face more rejection first than, especially that there's a certain resume format that's required here, right? Which will help the community in Matcha Jobs. But in your case, how did you get where did you get the resources and the courage and the motivation to keep surrounding yourself with the very things that you wanted to experience and just stay there? Because it's hard, especially in tech. It's competitive, is very competition is very competitive in tech, let alone for Filipinos to go get hired in Japan. It's very competitive. But that's why we're here. But how did you get yourself in that position where you were you have to be there, you have to be picked, and therefore you surrounded yourself with everything Japanese.
I think I was thinking that maybe if you work hard, is at the same time you it's like the universe is conniving. Like
Yes.
if everybody knows that you're working for it, even my friends knows, my parents knows, everybody else, it's like only Japan will just say yes, right?
Yes, yes,
So it's
yes.
like the universe is like working together just for you to get what you wish for. I think it's really, the will plus all the effort that you're doing, it really pays off, I think.
Yeah.
So when when the right time comes, if it's really meant for you, it's really meant for you. I think that's what I wanted to say. And when it's given, I got the opportunity, I really want to make the most of the time that I was there. I really want to make sure I will learn the language. It's really more of 100% will, I guess,
Yeah.
determination to really
Yes.
not go home without, really learning the language, not dreaming in
Yeah.
Japanese, right? For me, that's my gauge. If you're dreaming in Japanese,
Oh.
you're really in that level already, right?
So when did you start dreaming in Japanese? After how long?
Maybe 6 months, 6 months.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
soon. That's
And my
short.
friends could also tell, like, that I could communicate with them more. So yeah, I think 6 months was really the level that I started to be more confident, more conversant in the language.
Wow. So, we're like down to the last 11 minutes of our time, so I will try to capture the most essential. What was, because one of the top, I guess, roadblocks or things that our community is worried about when it comes to exploring opportunities in Japan is, well, two, apart from the language, is making friends, and like the cost of living or the
Mm,
style, the lifestyle, even though they are aware that, compared to Philippine, average salaries for tech
mm,
people, it will be higher for sure, but they just can't seem to picture and visualize how different it's going to be, and how do you actually leap from living in the Philippines and living in a country like Japan. So the questions are, how did you make friends? How did you make friends? And how, any particular steps that you took to adjust to your new living, to the point of, what do you eat? What do you eat every day? Where do you go during your weekends?
yeah, I think for the making friends, it was easy because I was in school. So there are really
Mm,
students are interested in foreigners. So find those
mm,
people who are interested in foreigners. There are people who really wants to become, feel like they're global. They want to practice English, or they want to feel like they are diverse and, more open. So there are people like that in Japan, especially the young people right now. I think you can find those friends. And then I think that's because I was in school that time. And then also, when you find those friends, you make time for them too. So
mm.
it's like a give and take as well. So find something that you think you can add value to them. Like, for example, I homestay with my friends. Introduce to them all the Filipino foods. They like the sinigang and adobo, things like that. And then when their parents actually send me food as well. So I have a friend
Wow.
whose father was a farmer. He sent me rice, rice, vegetables. So
Wow.
I think it's because they feel like I'm very close to my friends, so I'm taking good care of her. So the feeling of security having a foreigner friend is also a good thinking for them, having
Mm.
someone that is not Japanese as a friend. And then for the food, I would say I I crave KFC for a long time. I think it took me a few months to look for a KFC. I was riding in a train, so funny, and I found the KFC sign. Like, where is that KFC sign? So I told my friend we have to go there and eat at KFC because I miss eating at KFC. So we went to Omeda. I'm not so sure if you know the place in Osaka. So
Yes.
we really visited the KFC there, and to my surprise, there was no rice.
Yeah. Just biscuit.
Yeah, biscuit. So I was feeling hungry, and I said, oh, there should have a rice. So I think I go to those places like Yoshinoya,
Oh.
those salaryman's shop, and then also if you my Chinese friends actually taught me to go to the supermarket when it's like 1 hour before
Before
closing. So
closing,
I
yes.
think around 8 p.m. because it's already Waridiko or 50% off. So that's what we do. Because we were students, we rely on our scholarship money. So what we do is we wait for the the discount, and then
Yeah.
get to buy all those cheap karage or all those food in the supermarket. So I think those were my tip, and not really go to the famous ones. The ones that are just homemade are just cheap, right? Even the ramen, the soba, they're not so fancy but very authentic. Yeah, and it's
True.
also cheap.
Yeah, so true. That's one of the things that I love about living here is anywhere you go, food is high quality, whether you pay a huge sum or get the cheapest soba or udon. And there's a wide variety. It's funny that you mentioned KFC. Where did you live? Where did you live when you were a
I was in
student?
Osaka.
It's all over.
Yeah. Not sure if you know Fuse.
We live in Jose. We live in
Oh,
Jose.
really?
Yeah.
Near Vivre. There's
Is
a
that the
dormitory
salon?
of my school.
Oh,
Vivre is the
okay.
mall, right? Vivre is the mall.
Oh, maybe it looked different maybe during your
That
time.
maybe that time, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. But yeah, KFC, there's no gravy, there's no rice. So you take it
Yeah.
home, you make your rice and your gravy.
Yes, that's what I do. I take out the KFC and then I
Yeah.
just cook the rice.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, last 5 minutes. I'm gonna open the floor to anyone who would like to ask questions. Just put it in the chat box, and we'll capture it. We'll make Shane answer. And while we're waiting, for that, Shane, what would be your top three biggest pieces of advice to our tech professionals? Or these are software engineers, data scientists, user experience designers, and all the web developers, all of those kinds of roles within the community who are on the fence, not sure. They love anime, they love Japan, but they're worried about so many things, including what I mentioned, how to make friends, how to find housing. Actually, where am I gonna live? How is that gonna go? What would be like your top three pieces of advice to them?
Oh. Maybe for the first one is just go for it. We'll never know, right? We will never know because it's an experience that is once in a lifetime. And also, Japanese are humans. We're all the same. In that sense, I would remember we all fall in love, we all get hurt. All those things are the same, right? We all love to sing, we all love to dance. So that's what I realized when I was in there. Maybe it's in a different language, but we speak the same. We have the same heart of understanding kindness, understanding good character, so and also being generous. All those kind of values, I think it's really common for everyone. I think it's humanity, I would say. So don't be afraid. Don't think of them too much in a different way, because they're they're humans just like us. And also, I think enjoy, seize the moment that you're there. The fact that you'll be able to go to a country that is for me, I have so much appreciation of Japan. So maybe I would say this: I love the country because it has the weather is so nice. For me, you get to experience, four kinds of fashion in in a year,
Yes,
right? And
true.
then also four different kinds of experience because of the four seasons. There, it changes, magically. You will have a different experience in autumn, different experience in winter, right? And it's easier to see so many amazing places in Japan, inside Japan. So you can think of it as a blessing, right? Being able to see those places, and at the same time, the culture is also nice. For me, the people there, from what I've experienced, at least, they value the work. I think work is their ikigai, right? The ikigai is like the purpose. So whatever kind of profession they have, they take pride of it. So that's what I appreciate with Japan, because they take pride of whatever it is that they do, be it a small work or a big job or small profession or whatsoever. They take pride of it. That's why you will see the quality of the work that they have. So even with the food, right? So the chef, even though those people who are cleaning, I mean, they are really diligent with what they do. So I think that's what I like, because um you would appreciate, the quality of the work that they do, because they feel like it's their contribution to the community. And the spirit of volunteerism in Japan is amazing for me. Even the learnings from how they take good care of the elderly, how they give value of for the things that they can still do. Uh, that's one of the things that I dream of doing. If I'll become old and have the means, I'll copy the ones from Japan, like having a community of volunteers for seniors. I think that's very amazing. And at the same time, I think how would I say this? The the fun is different. The fun is
True.
different in Japan, because it's kind of liberating to, maybe for me that time, because I didn't have a family, but the, the liberation in the sense that you'll get to meet different kinds of people. There's a lot of foreigners in Japan, so it will make you feel like you're it's like the globe, or the globe is so small,
Yeah.
because you can just meet any different kinds of people in Japan, right? You don't get to experience that in the Philippines, and you get to meet a lot of people
True. Oh,
there.
that's so beautiful. That's such a beautiful way of putting, your experience living here. Because there's a lot of information on the internet. There's a lot of, repetition of the same things over and over. And it's actually one of the things that we want to do here in Matcha Jobs is we want to feature the uncommon things that actually happen, especially for foreigners in Japan, because there's a lot more to see and experience here. If you already see, for the audience if who haven't been here, if you already see a lot of good stuff about Japan on the internet, there's more to see. Yeah, there are sad things also, but it's just amazing how there's even more stuff, more good stuff that you can experience once you're here. And Joseph is asking, when are you coming back?
Oh, are you going to invite me, Joseph? I just went there pre-pandemic 2019, right? And we met after
Oh.
that. So I
Mm.
look forward to go back. It was a dream come true for me. I brought my family, my parents. So
Oh.
since I wanted to let them see, the places I
Mm.
went to,
Yeah.
it was really magical for my parents to see all those things.
Oh. That's
It,
so
it was
beautiful.
pre-pandemic.
That's good. It's good that they got to experience that before the pandemic. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think Joseph might talk to you soon about something.
Yes. Let's see. I want to go.
Okay.
I'm always a fan of Japan. So
Ah,
anytime I can visit
okay.
Japan anytime.
Super cool. Okay. Yeah, the time is never enough. Maybe you can come back soon. Thank you so much. I learned a lot about you, Shane. I feel so blessed to just know you. And then after what? After so long, right? I remember seeing you for the first time in IBM. And I'm like, and now we're actually here, in completely different times. So many things have happened in the world, and you're doing amazing. You keep doing amazing things. And thank you for sharing a lot of your experiences, and we look forward to hearing more from you down the road. Trixie and I will be in touch. I have an idea for you. um and thank you also, just thank you for being you.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here just to tell my story. It's kind of reminisce, all those good things that happened. And I'm always thankful for the Japanese experience. Without that, I mean, my family, it was an advantage for me having the Japanese language in my life. As I told you, my husband also speaks Japanese, so there was the level of change that happened to me.
I love
So,
it. I love it. Yeah, that's so fascinating. Thank you. And I hope to meet your husband soon also. Um,
sure.
and for those who joined us live earlier and who stuck around until the end, thank you very much for being a part of Matcha Jobs community. And for those watching in the recording, we hope to see you in one of our future live events also. And if you haven't yet, please complete your profile. It's the only way that we can see your full credentials, because my co-founder and myself are starting to review resumes to see who we can actually introduce to companies. So please update your profiles, sign up to the newsletter if you haven't yet, and share us with your Filipino tech friends and family who might want to explore work in Japan or working remotely from the Philippines for Japanese companies. So thanks again, everybody. And I'm going to stop the recording.